So, I did a thing. I joined the Africa Reading Challenge thinking, hey, it'll be good fun, some achebe here, a dash of ngugi there, maybe a sprinkle of poetry, a touch of romance, who knows. But the book I picked up next, let's just say, I wasn't ready. This book said, you want to read African literature? Okay, take a seat, strap in, and prepare to face humanity at its darkest. I should have known it wasn't going to be light when the genre was listed as travelogue and nonfiction. And yet halfway through, I felt like I was inside a war zone, talking to ghosts, questioning human nature, and wondering, what the hell went wrong? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you a story. In 1998, a woman from Côte d'Ivoire, an artist, a poet, a writer, traveled to Rwanda, not for a vacation, not for research, not even to write a book exactly. She went to try and understand something the world still doesn't fully comprehend. How does a country lose its mind? How does a nation of people, neighbors, friends, co-workers, even family members, suddenly turn on one another and unleash one of the most brutal genocides in modern history? Over 100 days, 800,000 people, gone. The woman, Véronique Tadjo, walked through the ashes of Rwanda's past. She spoke to survivors. She stood in churches stained with the memories of massacre. She visited prisons overflowing with perpetrators, and what she found was not just history. She found poetry, she found madness, she found us. This wasn't a book full of neat facts and dry analysis, no. One section, titled The Voice, reads like a poem. A long, haunting, melancholic poem that whispers of death, betrayal, and unbearable loss. But don't get too comfortable, because Tadjo doesn't shy away from the brutality. Let me read you a passage from the church at Nyamata.
Her wrists are bound and tied to her ankles. Her legs are spread wide apart. Her body is lying on its side. She looks like an enormous fossilized fetus. She has been raped. A pickaxe has been forced into her vagina. She died from a machete blow to the nape of her neck. Page 11.
This is not fiction. This is what happened. And yet the prose is almost too beautiful. It's the paradox of this book. On one hand, lyrical. On the other hand, horrifying. What makes people kill? What makes a neighbor kill the family next door? Not because of what they did, but because of what they are. Here's the madness. You couldn't even tell who was Hutu or Tutsi just by looking. The people had intermarried so much that physical features didn't mean much anymore. So what did they do? They asked for ID cards, because identity wasn't about culture or heritage anymore. It was bureaucracy. As Tadjo writes,
not all the Tutsis are tall, not all the Hutus are stocky in build. Because of all the inter-ethnic marriages and the various instances of interbreeding, those chasing the Tutsis would ask first of all to see identity cards as a means of selecting future victims.
Page 17. And how did this hate begin? Was it ancient tribal rivalry? Not exactly. Europeans had a hand in it. Surprise, surprise. Belgian colonists came in with their measuring tapes, pseudoscience, and anthropological fantasies and decided,
one of the reasons for the persecution of the Tutsis comes from the theories suggested by European historians, Belgian in particular, who, towards the end of the 19th century, attributed to them Tutsis' foreign origins. According to those historians, the Watusi shepherds, whom they characterized as tall and slender, in contrast to the smaller Hutu farmers, were not originally natives of Central Africa. Some thought they could have come from as far off as Tibet or Egypt, but the link with Ethiopia remains the most common claim.
Page 22. This flattery evolved into ethnic superiority, which metastasized into resentment and eventually genocide. And when the killings began, the Belgians left. The priests left. The international community, yep, they packed up and ran.
The Belgian priest was no longer there when the massacre took place. Page 13. Here too, Belgian priests administered the parish 4 Flemings and a Walloon. They left just before the massacre.
Page 15. We often assume that genocides are committed by men, but Tadjo doesn't let us hold on to that illusion.
Women who are murderers, perpetrators of genocide, women forced to kill, accused of having killed their husbands, their children, friends, neighbors, strangers. Women who have helped men to rape, who sang to give them the courage to massacre, who betrayed, who pillaged, who decided to join the acts of cruelty. With machetes, they killed other women, mutilated children, finished off men.
Page 101. Women killed, women mutilated, some were forced, some were threatened, but many participated willingly. And what of justice? Tadjo tells us that 130,000 people were arrested. But Rwanda could only try 1,000 cases a year. At that rate, it would take 130 years to see justice served. Impossible. This isn't just a Rwandan story. Tadjo warns us, clearly, genocide can happen anywhere. All you need is a country divided along ethnic lines, justice systems that protect one group over another, irresponsible leaders with microphones. Sound familiar? Tadjo's own country, Côte d'Ivoire, was bubbling with tension when she wrote this, and Sudan had already erupted. Even in the U.S., after the shooting of Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, people blamed violent rhetoric. Genocide doesn't require guns, it starts with words. So what is this book that shook me to my core? It's called The Shadow of Imana Travels in the Heart of Rwanda by Véronique Tadjo. Published in English in 2002 as part of the legendary African Writers series. Just 118 pages. But it contains generations of grief. This book taught me something crucial, that numbers like 800,000 can become abstract. But when you read stories, real, raw, emotional, you remember that those were human beings, that the people who died had names, that those who killed were not monsters, they were people. And those people now live with the weight of what they did, or what they didn't do, or what they allowed. A bit about the woman behind the words. Véronique Tadjo was born in Paris in 1955 but raised in Abidjan. Her father was Ivorian and a high-ranking civil servant. Her mother was a French artist. She's lived and taught across West Africa, Latin America, Europe, and the U.S. She holds a doctorate in African American Studies. She's also the author of Reina Poku, which won the Grand Prix Littéraire d'Afrique Noire in 2005. At the time of this book, she was living in South Africa. Her writing is thoughtful, quiet, and devastating. So, have you read The Shadow of Imana or anything on the Rwandan genocide? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. Let's keep this conversation going. And if this video made you pause, made you think, please consider sharing it. Or better yet, pick up the book, link in the description. It deserves to be read. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and as always, keep reading.